Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. This is the Innovation Talk Let's Exchange series, and my name is Kevin Brown. I am the SVP of EcoStruxure Solutions for Schneider Electric. And we wanted to talk a little bit today about Industry 4.0, which brings this promise of inexpensive sensors coming onto the network, which enable us to do new things with data. We can increase our using artificial intelligence, using machine learning, where we can increase the productivity and the resiliency of industrial automation processes. And one of the things that's interesting, however, is when we have this data coming onto the network, we need to make decisions on that. And the time it could take to use the cloud technology called latency, for the time it takes for the data to go to the cloud for decisions to be made and brought back to the industrial automation system, might actually be too slow. And therefore, there's this belief that there might need to be IT actually deployed much closer into industrial systems than maybe in the past. And in fact, this trend, there's data in the markets believe that IDC is predicting that 75% of all our data in the future might actually be not only generated at the edge, but also processed at the edge. So we're together for the next hour to talk about this industry landscape and the dynamics that we see and what's going to happen with localized edge solutions in Industry 4.0. And for that, we have a panel of experts here today with me. So one, we have Sophie, who is in charge of our digital plant line of business at Schneider Electric. Sophie, welcome. We're very excited to have John Vicente here, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Stratus. And then Tim Black, who is the system integrator and OEM manager for program director, Tim, for AVEVA.
Yes.
And thank you very much for all of you for joining us. And for those who are on the broadcast, you can use a chat session at any time during the program. And later in the day, at the end, towards the end of the hour, we're actually going to be trying to answer those questions as they come in. But to get us started, I thought maybe I'd turn to you, Sophie. And, again, I tried to mention in this opening about the promise of Industry 4.0, of increased performance and productivity and resiliency that's going to bring. But I read some data recently from LNS research that says only 72% of firms believe that they're still in the very early stages of this. If a company goes through an Industry 4.0 transformation, I mean, what are the benefits that you think they can get out of it? Maybe you can just kind of give us started with some commentary on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Well, at a time when uncertainty has become the new normal, with very fast changing market demand, with compliance obligation, with new safety or cybersecurity risk, industrial operation and control professionals are facing many challenges in relation with their capital expenditure, their operational costs, and continuous improvement priorities. Industry 4.0 transformation is an opportunity to transform their industrial operation into smart operations. Through digitization, they can enable and benefit from agile production, optimized scheduling, and a truly digital supply chain. That means higher speed, waste reduction, energy efficiency, industrial assets availability, and, bottom line, our industrial end users and machine builders are seeing a significant impact on variable and fixed production costs while running more robust and higher quality manufacturing operation. Another benefit that we have seen emerging in this very specific COVID situation that the world is evolving in right now is around remote operations. With Industry 4.0, secure remote management is allowing plant and factory operators to continue to adjust processes, conduct maintenance, make operational decisions with actionable insights that drive efficiency, even when the physical plant cannot be accessed or the access is either restricted or desired. So all this Industry 4.0 transformation is creating a large amount of data that has to be processed. And for many applications, just-in-time response are critical. In our industrial automation world, when we talk about real-time, we are talking about millisecond control loop for some application, which means that the data has to be stored and analyzed as close as possible to where it's produced latency is the enemy, and a round trip to cloud data center and back likely won't be tolerated and won't be matching this real-time capability. So it's clear that as we get deeper into the Industry 4.0 era, we are going to see increased benefits from industrial edge computing, which is addressing exactly that challenge.
Well, it's interesting when you talk about latency, because I know when I have my kids gaming, if there's any latency at all, it clearly is a problem. So I can imagine it's only worse when there's millions of dollars on the line, literally on a production line. So Tim, this is interesting because Sophie's talking about some IT technology coming in, and certainly coming from the AVEVA side of the world. You're used to the industrial plant. I mean, what do you see happening with hybrid IT coming in and being applied in these industrial technologies? Can you give us some comment on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, industrial software is the key to an IoT architecture. And when we look at an architecture for IoT, we typically think of it from the ground up approach. Number one, we want to see, well, what assets do we want to monitor? And we place edge devices or edge HMI devices next to those assets that we want to monitor. And these edge devices can be used, to data acquisition, to aggregate the data, filtering and contextualizing the data, and then depending on the application, they can send that data directly up to the cloud. In certain cases, you might want to have a centralized enterprise SCADA system that also takes that data and maybe incorporates some manufacturing execution software features and functionalities. But the key is the hybrid IT architecture is scalable from edge to enterprise, and it provides a reliable modern design. Also, importantly for system integrators is that we provide APIs so they can add extensibility to the products and add IP that they might have that's key to the manufacturing. But certainly the hybrid architecture is very important. Number one, it allows you to push to the edge all of the monitoring and stuff that you can do, which reduces that latency that might come about from network bandwidth and that sort of thing. But it also pulls the data closer to the user and allows them to be able to do some maintenance and these other things. Whereas the data that's being pushed up to the cloud can be used for data analytics and for that sort of enabling the industrial transformation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and that sort of thing, which can be done better in the cloud.
Yeah, so it really is a combination of being able to use kind of common IT technologies, being IP-based networks where you've got data being used on the edge, but then also being able to use big cloud, big data technology and capabilities in the more centralized data centers. It's a combination of those is what you're saying to realize the benefits. So that's kind of brings an interesting perspective, I think, for Stratus, John, in, what do you see as kind of the key things that companies need to think about to succeed in kind of this digital transformation, let's call it, from industry 3.0 to 4.0, or however you want to phrase it?
Right. Thanks, Kevin. Well, first of all, there's three major points here that I would bring up. One is customer maturity. The second is partner ecosystem. And the third is converged IT OT solutions. So in terms of customer maturity, knowing where the customer is in terms of their journey, every customer is going to be on a different path, and understanding where their operations, their infrastructure, workforce is pivotal, right? To be able to address, what steps they need to move forward. In fact, Stratus published an edge computing maturity model we call the 5 Is, and it starts from isolated to informed, to insightful, to intelligent, and invisible. Basically, we provide a prescription in terms of how, or to help customers really guide them through their particular journey. Second is the partner ecosystem. So no one supplier or vendor can deliver the complete solution to the customer. So it's important there's a collaboration across the different partners in delivering the overall solution to the customers. That's key. And of course, systems integrators are going to play a major role in that in terms of their understanding of the different suppliers' capabilities and then matching that up with the customer's requirements. In terms of converged solutions, the concept of siloed, disparate systems really is a thing of the past. And moving forward, modernizing that infrastructure is key. And that's leveraging Internet of Things, IoT, more modern cloud technologies, and advanced learning systems really is going to unleash an array of new applications for this industry. And of course, that will have implications in terms of the workforce and the requirements on the workforce in terms of skill sets. This includes data science, hybrid IT, OT skills, advanced applications like augmented or virtual reality, and some more advanced IT technologies that can be used for automation. So in summary, those are the three key areas that I think are important. Probably the most important there is the customer maturity, because every customer is going to be in a different stage and really needs to understand what their next step is in terms of where they are today.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because you're saying, first of all, customers need some guidance on an index, a maturity index on where they are today.
Right.
But then what are the technologies that are available that they can help move them along that maturity index, but perhaps most importantly, the ecosystem that's necessary to deliver it, if I undertook what you said correctly. So that's really, and I think, maybe Sophie can help us out here because, the term Industry 4.0 is not new. We've heard it before. It's been around for, at least for a few years. So is this all rhetoric, or are there actual real customer examples where they've seen some success by employing these technologies?
Well, there are many customers and many successes. Actually, I've seen a very strong and fast trend of distributing intelligence capabilities to really all components of a control architecture, from the control room to each and every device on the shop floor, to be distributing more and more intelligence at the edge. Devices such as relays or IOs are now outfitted with sensors, and they operate with localized algorithms. They can operate diagnostics. They are becoming smart devices. Logic controllers are evolving as well with embedding analytics, and they now concentrate data, run diagnostic, and have more and more advanced function. But really, the most advanced and comprehensive industrial edge computing solution are today IoT applications for predictive maintenance, worker environment, operation and supply chain end-to-end optimization. Let me give you an example of a more advanced industrial edge computing deployment with actually two of our customers who are oil and gas production companies in Southeast Asia and in the Middle East. And they have been operating with traditional automation systems for 4 years before deploying our latest solution, which is leveraging edge computing capabilities. So they had limited connectivity. Operators were not getting the most value out of the system, and it was requiring an increased investment in manpower to monitor, operate, and optimize those wells. To make things worse, the current unprecedented business environments and ensuring oil price crash required operators to be able to implement very flexible optimization strategies based on rapidly changing macroeconomic conditions. So both those customers shared common objective, which are to capture the expertise of their most senior operators, automate it, deploy it in more assets, to actively manage asset life cycles and well intervention schedules, and to optimize well production by reducing unplanned downtime and maximizing oil volumes. They have deployed a solution that is called EcoStruxure Autonomous Production Advisor. It's a new solution that is recently available and is bringing together the power and the flexibility of cloud and edge computing with value generating capabilities of machine learning and artificial intelligence. let me tell you a bit more on how it works. So we began by deploying an edge computing solution that runs a combination of unsupervised and supervised machine learning models that are continuously trained by operators and subject matter experts. These machine learning models detect, classify, and in some cases even predict when the asset is going to enter an abnormal operating state, not only from an electrical and mechanical perspective, but also from a production process perspective. So to do so, deploying the intelligence on an IT infrastructure by the asset, which is what we call at the edge, has helped a lot to remove concerns of connectivity and bandwidth at a site. If you think about those oil and gas pumping station wells, they are typically not in the best connected areas. So on top of this local infrastructure, our solution is doing some high resolution pooling of hundreds of megabytes between the controller and the edge device. It's analyzing the results locally, securely transmitting only the results to the cloud-based system. Both our customers have adopted the model training process and are reporting very positive results in terms of capturing the expertise of their most senior operators and having the system automate and reproduce those learnings. In one case specifically, our customer has achieved 13% in production while reducing the energy consumption of the pump, extracting oil by 34%, which is highly significant. With the benefits of this advisor, the customer now expects to extend the lifetime of the well thanks to the reduced stress on the system. So that's only one example. There are many examples out of there, and we are seeing a rapid adoption of those technologies.
I think it's interesting because a couple of things you just said really resonate with me. I mean, obviously, 13% and 64%, or excuse me, 34% reduction in energy is impressive. But I've heard this said before, is that the right way to think about artificial intelligence is augmenting intelligence. So it's interesting to hear about how do you take your customer is taking what their most senior operators knew and really augmenting them so that it could be used by a more significant part of the organization. Very interesting points, and it kind of makes me think. Come to you, Tim, for a second about, what are the opportunities that are at stake? I mean, with AVEVA, and you work a lot with the system integrators, and what's the role? What's at stake for them? How does this look given what Sophie just outlined as a success?
Yeah, industrial systems integrators, they typically have really strong domain knowledge, meaning that they know what's going on in the factory, they know what the sensors are bringing in, they know what type of data it is. The challenge that systems integrators have today is that they also need to have some skill sets added on top of that, data modeling, data analytics, and these type of things. So once they understand the edge to enterprise solution, they become a consultant, if you will, for the IT and OT world. The OT, they're very comfortable in that world, and to be able to provide the connectivity down to the factory floor, or down to the field devices, the edge devices, they can provide a lot of value at the business level, if you will. To be clear, not only one vendor doesn't supply it all. And I have to say that, with the combination of Schneider Electric and Stratus with the edge computing and AVEVA with the industrial software, I think that they can really provide a full edge to enterprise solution. I'd like to tell you a little bit about an example of where the edge was utilized. For anybody that's familiar with burritos and tortillas and that sort of thing, the La Tortilla company in Santa Rosa, California, they have quite a production. They put out millions of tortillas a day, and the problem they had was they had a bunch of disparate systems out there, and they struggled with being able to get the performance data to understand, to make the tweaks in their process or in their production. And I mean, one of the keys when you go into a factory like that and you see people walking around with clipboards, then you know they've got a problem. So what our local distributor, Wonderware California, went in, and along with one of our endorsed system integrators, they came up with a system by putting Aviva Edge HMIs on these disparate systems. And they were able to pull the data and have actionable data for the IT departments. They pulled it up into a system platform, and then the system platform was able to push it up to the enterprise systems. So the business people could tell what was going on the floor and under all the different things. They were able to make some changes in the process, and the end result was a 5% improvement on their throughput. And what that means, if you're thinking about it, is 1.5 million tortillas a day, and then you get a 5% improvement on that. That's just a lot of breakfast burritos that you can have at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, a 5% productivity improvement, especially with the environment that we've all been in over the last few months, I think all of us would say that's a pretty impressive number, particularly 1.2 million,
yeah.
that type of volume. And Tim, you kind of touched on the ecosystem, and we're going to talk about that in depth in a second here. But before we do that, Tim was just talking about, the system integrators and the deep expertise they have on the manufacturing processes or what have you.
Right.
I mean, what do you see from the IT side coming in? And because this, again, the IT-OT convergence might be an overused term, but there's a reality that you're taking data, you're putting out over the network, it's going under the cloud. You end up working with the IT department when you do that. But maybe give us your perspective on, what is the role of the solution providers and Stratus and so forth?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I've used the word modernization. It's really about modernization. And bringing IT and cloud computing technologies to the industrial world is really fundamental to this convergence discussion. If you look at cloud, telco, mobile, enterprise industries, I mean, there's been significant progress over the past 25 years, right? With regards to computing scale, connectivity, open systems, big data. I mean, there's a number of advancements that the IT industry has matured, stabilized. It's important to understand from an IT solution provider that the requirements in industrial are very different. And comprehending those new requirements, I think, is core to the solution provider's ability really to influence the industrial automation industry. But the industrial automation industry can also exploit that progress, achieving greater scale, flexibility, interoperability. And of course, that matches some of what we've seen on the IT industry in terms of giving end users more choice, higher efficiency, lower infrastructure and operating costs. So we actually have a customer success story as well with Aviva in water, wastewater, Dusseldorf's water authority. They manage 3 plants with over 40,000 data points, and these data points needed to be tracked for legal, health, and safety reasons. And of course, they couldn't afford to have any data gaps. Of course, the customer recognized the value of the technology in terms of virtualization, but had limited expertise in that area. So designing a product that really fits their expertise, their workflow processes and skill sets is very important. So Stratus deployed a fault-tolerant edge computing solution that eliminated, high levels of IT support, basically saved the customer costs in terms of virtualization. The overall solution was simple, and the customer got the best of both worlds in terms of the deployment of the SCADA system, and of course, leveraging modern fault-tolerant IT capabilities. And basically, it's been working without data loss since 2011.
Well, it's interesting. You hit on something interesting, is that one, the IT solution providers are coming from the IT side. You need to understand what's happening on the industrial side and the requirements.
That's right.
And I think Stratus in particular is in an interesting area because you hit on a key word, which is robustness, right?
Right.
Because you can't allow these systems to go down, and therefore it's not the exact same IT solution that we may put in I don't know, my wiring closet that's right here in my house, right? It needs to be more resilient than that, I imagine.
Yeah, criticality, I think, is very important in the industrial industry. And while you have criticality, mission criticality, if you will, criticality is a much higher bar in the industrial space, right? I mean, safety and all the implications around determinism. So without question, we're talking about a different set of requirements, a higher level of threshold for safety and well-being, if you will. So absolutely, that's going to be a hurdle for the IT providers to really understand.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that you brought up from the IT side though, is like think about the privacy requirements on data and all the regulations and everything that really, I would think it would be fair to say the IT side of the house has a greater expertise in, arguably, given the background, the nature of what they've been doing. So it's really an interesting mix of the two. So,
of course, skill set's very important.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings us a little bit to a discussion around the ecosystem, I think, guys. So, we'll just keep going around the horn here. So, I mean, Sophie, this IT/OT convergence seems to be real. You're in a very interesting role within Schneider about what are we doing to help facilitate that? What are we doing to try and improve the IT/OT collaboration?
Well, we are doing quite a lot because we are a firm believer in the power of open innovation. And we are convinced that the success in industrial edge computing deployments, as in any of the technology we are providing to the market, does require a very strong collaborative ecosystem of partners. So to achieve that, we have worked with several partners to provide customers with industrial edge computing reference designs, where Schneider Electric has worked with not only Aviva and Stratus, but also with HPE and Lenovo, and those reference designs are available. They are examples of reference designs. They can be enriched with additional partners from the ecosystem. And if you think about the amount of collaboration required to work together with 3, 4, 5 partners, imagine what it does require if you want to extend the community to hundreds or thousands of partners. So to do so, to say automate the animation of the ecosystem, we have put in place a platform that is called Schneider Electric Exchange with some specific capabilities to facilitate the ecosystem. So one example is the matchmaking capabilities that we have on Exchange. And an example of that is that a system integrator that is used to develop control systems, so to say an OT system integrator, can specify the type of IT challenge they are facing. And with the artificial intelligence algorithm running on the platform, we are going to suggest a list of qualified IT partners that can work together with this OT system integrator. Very similarly, an IT solution provider can leverage the service to find as well qualified OT partners. Because this IT-OT integration is going to come from the collaboration of IT-OT player, and this needs to be facilitated. Then there is an additional challenge in the animation of this ecosystem, which is how do you manage trust in the ecosystem? How can we somehow deliver a trusted solution to the final user, leveraging the power of the ecosystem with some guarantees? So to do that, we have been working on training and certification system. We do acknowledge that each IT and OT system integrator is at a different point on the journey. They are as well going through different level of maturity in digital transformation. And to really understand and align skills to the new IT demands in the industrial space, we have created professional development learning paths and edge certification programs that are available to all the partners in the ecosystem.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you're hitting on. So it's one, not only development, but we've actually that invested in a platform to try and facilitate different partners working together, right, and helping them
Yeah,
match up.
absolutely.
And it's kind of interesting, Tim, because Sophie touched on reference design and some other work that we've done that Schneider's doing with Aviva and with Stratus. I mean, can you make, from your perspective, how do you think some of that work might help accelerate the innovation of and deployment of this Industry 4.0?
Yeah, what we have is an Aviva partner network, which includes systems integrators, our channel partners, technology partners like Stratus, and we're also merging a lot of these programs together so that, for example, the SciTech software, which is used in the Schneider Electric Alliance Partners package, we're merging all these together, so we're allowing the system integrators to have a wider breadth of products available to them. Also, with the Aviva Partner Network, we have training and certification programs to ensure that they, learn about the products themselves and know how to implement them. We even have delivery teams that we work with the system integrators so that we can ensure that everybody is progressing that innovation, if you will. And there's multiple learning paths for certifications, and one of the things I think is quite interesting, talking about the combination of Schneider Electric and their alliance partners. They have certifications that they provide. One of them is EcoStruxure certification. And they have one particular one that actually is called Certification on EcoStruxure with System Platform, which requires them actually to be certified on our products as well as their requirements. And I think this is some of those things, the innovation. We're combining the products to provide a more powerful solution to the customer.
Interesting. So you've got kind of joint certification programs going on, right? So
exactly. We actually have several integrators that have made that step and made that jump, so that you can find them on the Schneider Electric Alliance page, but they're mutual system integrators that are in both of our programs, and I think that provides a great benefit to the customer.
Yeah, and so if I'm an end customer, I can know who's certified. Sorry, Sophie, were you?
No, fully supporting what Tim just said. We have seen a lot of value of this common program at our customer yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. So it's really, it's pretty interesting. And so, and going back to John, I mean, Stratus, you're talking about you created a maturity index in order to help end customers with this. I mean, what other tools do you think might come out? What else is available today? But also, what can you give us an idea of what you might see happening in the future? As we work together and innovate together. Give us some of your thoughts there.
Well, I'm gonna continue to reemphasize the reference designs that Sophie's eloquently communicated here. Truly it does simplify the design process, right? In terms of the integration. You look at our partnership with Aviva and Schneider. Each of us are serving major aspects of the overall customer solution, and it requires integration of multiple suppliers' capabilities, really to truly deliver that best-in-class solution, if you will. Schneider brings the networking, the power protection, remote management, and of course Aviva with their innovative automation software. Stratus brings the modern fault tolerance, virtualization, and manageability computing solutions. So what these reference designs do, as I said, is really simplify the design process, but it can save up to 40% of engineering costs. You can get to the market faster, 20% faster, in fact, and reduce maintenance costs by about 7%. So really what this means is, customers get faster time to value and everybody wins. Another key point, I think we've said this a few times, but it's very important. It's about collaborative innovation. And this is absolutely going to be essential towards simplifying IT/OT convergence and capitalizing on this whole concept of Industry 4.0. Right? With the reference designs, clearly it enables us to expand on flexible footprint offerings, with the same design, of course, and that allows us to meet various or diverse edge computing requirements. Another key point to that collaboration is it's important to have more of a customer-centric approach as well to the solution, which means each of the partners are forming a common understanding of the customer's needs, right? So that's just as it's essential. So we're really delivering towards a common set of requirements for the solution. So I think in the future, I think this is going to be key in terms of how we can expect that collaboration and innovation to happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about reference designs is sometimes there's things that you think should be simple end up being quite complex when you start talking about how do I deploy into a rugged environment and take into account all the requirements that somebody might have, having the IT and the physical infrastructure all coming together in a solution that a customer can have. I mean, those are pretty impressive numbers of a 40% decrease of speed of deployment, 20% decrease in cost. That's if I got those right, that's
40% engineering field cost reduction.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
Adam backwards.
I'm sorry because the chat is blowing up as I'm sitting here with you guys. So I was a little distracted trying to look at all these questions.
Yeah.
But maybe so we're going to jump to the Q&A since we got so many questions coming in. Let me give me 1 second here. Technology's challenging me. So why don't we start with this one? So for Sophie from Michaelis. Do all industrial automation architectures require more edge, or is it only certain ones?
Well, that is a very strong trend because new automation architecture generally correlates to a more asset-centric design, distributed control, a lot of software-driven configuration. If you think about system orchestration, data collection, advanced analytics, I would say yes, industrial edge computing can really best address all these new automation architecture requirements. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another one for I'm going to go to John on this one. So and it's from Ava. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for industrial automation that new technology will enable us to capture? An easy
right.
question.
The obvious answer here is you start pointing to the exciting technologies like 5G, AI, blockchain. These are all disruptive. Yep. But in my opinion, the biggest short-term opportunity is around the adoption of open systems and cloud-based technologies in the industrial environment. I mean, these are concepts like virtualization, containerization, microservices, orchestration. Orchestration has significant opportunity to increase the automation capabilities. And in my opinion, true IT-OT convergence will happen really with the adoption of these technologies. Again, it's very mature. And it's going to open up a new era of innovation and applications, really to unleash the vast potential of this market. So that's my answer. Yeah,
it's interesting. You're talking about kind of technologies that have kind of been proven out in other applications, and then how do you apply them is kind of an interesting perspective. So, so Tim, this is from Lakeisha. So, to that end, there's different cloud technologies out there. What does Aviva use, and what's actually available today?
Yeah, our offer is known as Aviva Connect. And that's our cloud offering, and we do have products. One of the most interesting ones I find is called Aviva Insight, which provides visualization and some MES type operations at the cloud level. So we do have some very interesting things. In addition to the Insight, there's OMI apps and some other things that provide predictive and easy to use predictive analytics, which is key for people that are wanting to monitor their assets.
Interesting. Okay, so more questions coming in here. Okay, so let me work through. Oh, here's one from Easter Prince James to all the panelists to debate. So they're looking for the three of you to have an argument, I guess. But when you talk about I'm going to read it. When you talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence for industrial IoT systems, there is a possibility for error. So how, in your experience, how long does a human need to be intervening to make the system smart, less prone to false alarms? Is there marked acclimatization time? That's a big word. Acclimatization time But how long does it take for the machine to learn and acclimate so that you're really getting good data out of it in a true production environment? Because we know, industrial environments, they don't want to make mistakes. So why don't we start with, I don't know, Tim, let me go back to you. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I saw this one coming in on the chat, so I had a lot of time to think about it. I mentioned the OMI app that runs in the cloud, and what that does is it actually you have some machine learning, some artificial intelligence, and it brings up alarms or alerts, and the operator can look and say, that particular one isn't relevant. And so he marks it as irrelevant, and that goes back. And so there's a continuous learning interaction between the human interface and the machine learning itself. So when does that actually stop? I don't think it ever actually stops, but every time you make those determinations, it improves the analytics, if you will. And it remembers what you've selected as being relevant or not relevant. So it's a continual improvement. Yeah. I don't know if there's going to be an argument on that one or not, but
well, I don't know, Sophie.
Today,
I mean, what are you seeing with the deployments that we've done with customers, or what's your perspective?
Yeah, I think Tim's point is very valid. It's very difficult to give a typical time to reach an acceptable level of automated intelligence, because it really depends on the complexity of the application. It depends as well on the level of expertise the people that are teaching the machine have. So we have example where in a matter of days, the application was already delivering the expected benefits. In some others, it has been more tricky and it took more in terms of months, in terms of time frame. But overall, all the applications that we have deployed are delivering a very short return on investment. We are really seeing those solutions are relatively easy to deploy. And if you really balance the cost and the benefit, it's a no-brainer typically.
Yeah, interesting. So John, do you have some that sounds like Sophie and Tim are green for the most part, so we're not getting the debate that we're looking for. But
no,
I don't know, dude. Where are your thoughts?
Are you the devil's advocate for us today?
No, actually, I'm in agreement. When I read this, I was thinking the obvious analogy was, take this further and look at autonomous driving, and if you can envision a world where eventually we get to autonomous factories, if you will. I mean, that's a long time, right? And you see, even in vehicles today, the introduction of analytics or capabilities like IoT that can actually, intervene or, take over, if you will. So I think in the factory, it's going to depend, right? It's going to depend on use cases. It's probably not going to be areas where safety is involved, right? So there maybe it's around inventory, so it depends really on the application where that time frame, the acclimation time frame is less. So as you get to more, let's just say mission critical types of use cases, I think you actually have to have a longer sustaining period of understanding, how imperative a decision that is being made by a machine rather than a human, could affect the environment. So anyway, I'm not giving an exact answer here, but I guess what I would say is I'm pretty much aligned with both Sophie and Tim on kind of how to look at this.
Yeah, and it's kind of sorry, Tim.
I said no cat fights today.
No cat fights today. Well, it is reinforcing some of what we touched on earlier with artificial intelligence. And again, I was quoting someone else that said it's better to think of it as augmenting intelligence, is that humans are still in the middle of this. Yep. And it's not, and you still have to train the system. And in Tim's case, it might be trained, can be a continuous improvement. So it may not be.
That is what artificial intelligence is, right? Is that you're continuously, with more data, more practice, more runs. Essentially, you're building that intelligence, right? You can't get to intelligence from a baby to a child immediately, right? So I think very similar. There's going to be this period of gestation and eventual growth, and lots and lots of data that's going to essentially increase AI's ability to essentially replace, if not augment.
Yep. Okay, so so John, we're going to keep you on the hot seat for a second here, because there's an interesting question that came in from John to John. But have you considered that you're creating a huge number? I don't know what huge means, but a large number of edge access points, each providing opportunities to be hacked, right? So is this really a new problem, or is this one that we've been dealing with? What's your perspective?
Right. You cannot argue that point, right? The fact is, you are more machines, more devices are coming online, and if you look at those projections, right, they're somewhat on the exponential curve, right? But what we're dealing with is a very different model, where traditionally we've physically segregated systems, and obviously there's benefits in doing that. But as you put more and more devices online, you can start to take advantage of IT capabilities that, again, have matured for many, many years. Now, is that going to be enough? Probably not. I think there's going to be a requirement to continuously embed what I would refer to as intrinsic security capabilities but concepts around security, authentication, authorization, access control, those are well understood. There is technology that is coming forward, both from a silicon perspective, from a software distributed perspective, that are really starting to address some of these more complex and rogue attacks, if you will. So I think it's a problem. And it's still a problem for the IT industry as well, right? It's a continuous battle, if you will. So I agree with the question and the premise there, but I'm actually very optimistic in terms of the solutions and some of the innovation happening out of the security industry.
Interesting. Yeah, and well, it's interesting because we have another security question, which was actually posed towards me, but I'm actually going to point it towards Sophie, I think, which is, how do we protect the data security for industrial controllers from being hacked? And do we still see cases where it's being hacked as well? So Sophie, what's your perspective on because John was just talking about kind of the IT equipment and securing that, but you have the controllers themselves. What's best practice there?
Yeah, well, the cybersecurity challenge apply absolutely in the very similar way to industrial controller. We are not exempt from this. And we do apply pretty much the same recipe to try to protect as much as possible. Cybersecurity is really a 360-degree approach. It starts with the product cybersecurity itself, and there are several certification to prove the compliance of an industrial controller to several cybersecurity standards. Then it's important to look at the cybersecurity of your full system and to look at the process and people that are operating the plants to have a fully cybersecure operation. It's not an easy task. And it is part of the challenges that our industrial customers are facing while going through their digital transformation. People from the IT department were used to it. It's pretty new for people for the shop floor. And we are seeing customers, and actually ourselves in our own plants, having people in charge of the cybersecurity of the plant itself, which are new roles to address new challenges.
Yeah, so it's interesting, as Sophie, I'm hearing you say it's it's some of it's technology, some of it's process, some of it's change management, new roles in the organization, and my own experience with this too is, sometimes the most basic things are what make things cyber secure, which is keep the firmware up to date, and you have the processes in place to ensure that. And I can tell you, it's a simple thing that many customers find complex and to deal with, at least in my experience. So to weigh in on that one for a second. But so let me jump to another question here. We had one. Let's see. There's too many coming in. Okay. So this from Singh to Tim. That's good to take this one, Tim. Do you see synergies with other edge computing companies such as IBM with Schneider Electric? And is this cross-sharing the future of edge computing? So.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was talking about with the Viva Partner Network. We're made up of system integrators that also bring value to this whole edge computing idea. They bring their own technologies, and then our technology partners and alliance partners. And IBM is one of those alliance partners that we work with. And so it's the cross sharing, and yes, certainly everybody's going to benefit from that. And whether there's a central e-computing future, I don't know. Everybody's in there to make business as a individual vendor, but because of these partnerships, we work together, and I think the end customer will end up benefiting from that.
Yeah. Well, you, John, do you have any thoughts on other partners like an IBM or somebody else?
Well, it really depends. The layers of the edge, if you will, right. And the edge is, depending on who you're talking to, is going to be very wide or very limited, right? And so, but in my view, the edge is expanding beyond the enterprise. I describe it as the sort of between embedded and cloud, and that can go all the way up to where the network access is off-prem. That could be where the traditional enterprise DMZ is. So yeah, I see a lot of players that are in that space today, right? Whether it's telcos or network providers, cloud providers. So what we're seeing now, and a lot of the discussion tends to be about Internet of Things, but in fact, it's actually going to span much broader to traditional technologies in these other areas, right? You think about 5G. What is 5G going to do in terms of suppliers there, and equipment? So without question, this is we're on a journey here for a number of years, and there's going to be a number of partners and a number of industries that are going to start to collaborate, with the Schneiders of the world, and it's important to really understand where their value comes in, and again, they have to customize these what I would consider traditional IT technologies and cloud technologies really have to comprehend a very different set of requirements in the industrial space. So yeah, there's no question collaboration and expansion of the value chain, if you will, is going to happen.
Okay, so I think we've got time for one more question. So this one's for you, Sophie. So you mentioned Schneider Exchange as a platform where we connect the solution providers. Is the platform open to anyone or only Schneider Electric partners? Maybe you can provide a little bit more detail on that.
Well, thank you for this question, because it's a perfect opportunity to tell each of you joining the session that it is absolutely open. When we talk about open innovation, we are really serious about it. It's not open only for the selected ones. So each of you can join and connect. Actually, you should be able to see the link from the session. So it's exchange.sc.com, and you can navigate and see for yourself all the wonderful capabilities of the platform.
Oh, that's great. So anyway, so I think, we're coming to the end of our time here. So, I guess, let me see if I can summarize kind of 3 takeaways I would have and see if you guys agree. So number one is that edge computing, IT/OT convergence is not just a theory, that there's actually companies realizing tangible benefits from it today. Do we agree on that? Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. Second thing I hear is that the ecosystem is really going to have to think differently about how it operates. If I'm a IT solution provider or a system integrator on the OT side, I really need to rethink this. If I want to rethink how I approach this challenge, if I want to capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah.
Agree with that one?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then third, it's going to take companies like ours working together also in different ways in order to make it practical to get this level of deployment out and manageable and leveraging all of these great technologies that we have coming from the IT side of the house. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, collaborative innovation is what I would kind of capture that as.
Collaborative innovation. So that's great. So thanks very much to three of you. I think it was a great discussion. And so I was obligated to say there's another one of these sessions coming in September. And the next session is going to be on healthy buildings, which is really, especially coming out of the situation that we're in, is an incredibly interesting topic. I've been working some of that myself. And please, as Sophie was emphasizing, I encourage everybody who's listening to take a look at the Schneider Exchange platform. And really, not only because we think there's some great stuff there, but we'd love to get feedback on what can we do better, what other things can we bring in order to help bring this edge computing, industrial edge to reality. So thanks again to all those tuning in. Thanks again to our three panelists. We appreciate the time, and stay safe, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon.